Welcome to NFL Live. We got breaking news out of Arizona. Adam Schefter, what do you got?
All right, Dan, moments ago, the Arizona Cardinals informed Kyler Murray that when the new league year begins, they intend to release him, barring a trade. He is guaranteed close to $37 million for this coming season, but he will be an unrestricted free agent. He can go where he wants. You could add Kyler Murray to the free agent pool. The Cardinals looked to find a trade partner in Indianapolis. There was not a team out there that was willing to make the deal. They informed him today that when the new league year begins next week, Kyler Murray will be released.
All right, big news here to start NFL Live. And a big addition to our crew today, Chase Daniel, making his NFL Live debut. Chase, we're going to throw you right in here. What do you think of Arizona's decision and Kyler's future?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, I think that this was going to happen eventually, right? That all signs were pointing to a release. But when you look at Kyler Murray and you really break down his tape, it's been really inconsistent, really year to year, game to game. There's been times, Graz and Shefty, that he's played like a top 5 quarterback, and he strings us along for 2 or 3 games, and all of a sudden it's the old Kyler Murray, right? And I think that when teams are looking at this, you got to look at it from a monetary perspective, is that they're going to get a really good deal, right? Because Kyler can go somewhere for the league minimum, which is about $1.3 million. The name and the team that comes to mind over and over again is the Minnesota Vikings, right? Kevin O'Connell, everything that they have, the stacked roster that they have, he is by far right now the best available free agent. He's the best available cut candidate. All these things, draftable guy. He would be my #1 target really on any of these quarterback needy teams.
All right, we're going to have much more on this as the show goes along. This is big news of the day, but we knew there would be news today because just moments ago was the deadline for teams to designate franchise tag players for this year. So, Adam Schefter, what's going on with the Colts and their big decision?
Dan, the Indianapolis Colts have put the transition tag on Daniel Jones. In the history of tags, the transition tag has been used on a quarterback only twice. The Atlanta Falcons once used it on Jeff George, and now today the Colts have placed the transition tag on Daniel Jones. And what the transition tag is it saves them $6 million. He's allowed to sign an offer sheet with another team. They retain the ability to match that offer. However, they cannot tag Alec Pierce, who they still are trying to re-sign. They want to keep Pierce in Indianapolis with Daniel Jones, keep them together. Now that Jones has the tag, Pierce is slated to hit the free agent market. We'll see if Indianapolis can get anything done with him in advance to prevent him from becoming a free agent. And the New York Jets placed their franchise tag on running back Breece Hall, who would have had interest on the open market and now will be in New York on that franchise tag. It was placed on him today, the non-exclusive franchise tag, for over $14 million. They had trade interest in Hall last year. Again, right now they've decided to place him on a franchise tag. They still would like to try to sign him to a long-term deal. One player who did get to market today, Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP. Not often you get to see a Super Bowl MVP get to free agency the very next year. It happened with Desmond Howard. It happened with Dexter Jackson. It's happened seldom, but Kenneth Walker now is poised to become a free agent when free agency begins next week, as is the Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. The long, contentious feud between those two sides is over. Trey Hendrickson's allowed to become a free agent next week. He will test the market. He will be one of the most sought-after defensive players on the board, and we'll see where Trey Hendrickson winds up, and it won't be in Cincinnati with the Bengals. He's now moving on after not being tagged today.
You know, Adam, former Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo now has that job in Indianapolis, so I'm going to watch that spot for Trey Hendrickson. But the reason I bring that up, Chase, is because I want to go back to the Colts and the decision to put the transition tag on Daniel Jones and potentially let Alec Pierce get to free agency, although they still have a few days to work out a deal and prevent that. What do you make of what the Colts did today?
Well, I love it for the player and the team, Daniel Jones, right? You got to figure out where Pierce is going to go, but I imagine that they're going to try to get both of these guys. But when you look at Daniel Jones, right, the tape, especially when they started 8-3, it was really, really good. Obviously, the injury to the Achilles in week 14. I think this is about where Daniel Jones's average per year should land, right? He's a 37, 38 in the position in football there, and that's Daniel Jones, so I do like it.
Listen, the Colts are taking what they believe to be an educated, calculated gamble to keep Daniel Jones in Indianapolis by using the transition tag. They could have gone for the franchise tag. It would have cost them an additional $6 million. But now they have control because there is another team that can sign them to the offer sheet, but they will retain the ability to match any offer sheet that Daniel Jones signs with another team, and it doesn't prevent them from trying to get a long-term deal worked out with Daniel Jones by July 15th. That's the hope and goal still, to keep him under contract. There aren't those, or the Browns, or the Dolphins. So really the Colts are taking that calculated gamble by placing the more inexpensive transition tag on their starting quarterback.
And of course, the reason it's a gamble is the difference between the transition tag and the franchise tag is you franchise a guy and somebody makes an offer sheet you don't want to match, you get 2 first-round picks. The transition tag, somebody makes an offer sheet you don't want to match, you don't get any picks. So that's the risk the Colts now run. I want to pivot, Chase, to Alec Pierce, who now stands to be an unrestricted free agent. Monday is the start of the legal tampering period. Next Wednesday is the start of the league year. Colts have between now and then to try and do a deal to keep him off the market. Why do you believe it's so important for them to do that?
Well, the biggest reason is the fact that he can stretch the field vertically. Teams are in need of a wide receiver with the type of speed that Alec Pierce has. You look at his big play reel, and it is post, it is go. All these defenses nowadays, Graz and Shefty, they're playing these 2-eye safety looks. So when you're in cover 2, you can run the football, yes, but you still need a speed guy on the outside. He's so valuable for that. Him and Daniel Jones had a really good connection. This is a huge deal for the Colts to try and keep Alec Pierce with Daniel Jones because of the camaraderie that they have. He can stretch the field. He's their go-to guy.
Look, Dan, where have we seen before a team that was interested in trying to keep Daniel Jones and another offensive weapon in their fold? That was the New York Giants, and that was Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, a running back, a higher profile position than wide receiver in Indianapolis with Alec Pierce. But it's not altogether different. This team, Indianapolis, has 2 players it wants to keep. The Giants had 2 players they wanted to keep. They kept one. They kept Daniel Jones for a little while before moving on from him and lost Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. The Colts now are going to try to get long-term deals done with both players. There are no assurances that they will. And if you're Alec Pierce, why would you not take this to Monday and Tuesday, to the tampering period and the negotiating period, to where you would know exactly what a team like New England or Buffalo might be willing to offer? So we'll see how that plays out. Indianapolis is determined to get him back, but Alec Pierce right now is in a position of power.
Yeah, I'm sure all the Giants fans are watching. Appreciate you reminding them of how the Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley situation worked out a few years ago. Worked out well for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, not so much for the Giants. I do believe that having Daniel Jones in the fold for sure is a helper in terms of getting Alec Pierce, getting Alec Pierce to stay in Indianapolis. We had surprise news, Adam, out of Chicago today. What is it?
This was a stunner. The Chicago Bears Pro Bowl center, 27-year-old Drew Dahlman, informed the team that he now plans to retire from the NFL. Played at Stanford, very smart. Does that sound familiar? Drew Dahlman's father played in the NFL. He's seen the effects that the game can have up close and personal, and after a certain amount of time, he just decided, after playing 4 years in Atlanta and in Chicago, that he's had enough playing football. Remember, he was one of Chicago's big free agent additions last offseason, along with Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, to fortify the Bears' offensive line. Now, the Bears have a gaping hole at center. They lose their Pro Bowl center. Ben Johnson's used to this in Detroit. The Lions lost Frank Ragnow to retirement. Now the Bears have lost Drew Dahlman to retirement. Not a simple spot consider, or to begin considering that their left tackle spot and their left tackle, Ozzie Trapilo, ruptured his patella tendon in the playoffs. So they are down some offensive linemen and need to find some upgrades in Chicago on a unit they upgraded last year.
Chase, you played quarterback. I've always thought that the center-quarterback relationship was one of the closest and most unique in all of sports. How big a deal is this loss for Caleb Williams?
Well, it's a huge deal. For one, he's the center, right? He's the guy who snaps you the football. But ultimately, at the line of scrimmage, when you watch the film and you really break it down, Drew Dalman was calling all the protections, whether it's the run game protection, whether it's the pass game protection. And it was really key in Caleb Williams' development. When Shefty, tweeted this out, I was in awe. I was completely flabbergasted and surprised because when you are a quarterback, you'll have a certain comfort level with certain centers, how they see things, what we should go to, how they call. It just puts a little bit more on Caleb Williams' plate. They're without a Pro Bowl type guy, too. He's the leader of the big uglies up front. Man, this is a massive, massive loss.
Bears join the ranks of the teams out there looking for interior offensive line help this offseason. Could be a really good year to be a free agent guard. Averaged 10.8 miles per hour at the line of scrimmage on rushes, the second fastest among players with at least 250 carries over the last 2 seasons. Only guy faster was Atlanta's Bijan Robinson. Breece Hall posted this on X after he was tagged. Quote, always been the type to bet on myself. Been working. See y'all soon. Chase, the Jets and Breece Hall had been working on a long-term deal. Presumably they will continue that work, but the franchise tag over $14 million. The transition tag would have been right around $11 million. Is this worth it for a running back?
I think so. Look, he's one of 5 players since 2023 with 2,500 rushing yards and over 150 receptions. And I say that because he's a true 3-down back. We talk about positional value a lot with running backs, right? He can do it all. He can catch out of the backfield. He can run in between the tackles. He can protect on 3rd down. Meanwhile, he's only 24 years old.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of talk about the transition tag, Graz, but he's worth that $14 million. And he's one of the Jets' best players. He's a productive player in the pass game. He's a leader. I'm in the business. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to lose my best players. Look, the Jets have a lot of cap space. They have 5 first-round picks the next few years. So I love this pick a lot. You have to score points when you play offense, Graz, and this guy is a guy who helps you do that.
That's an outstanding point about his age. You just don't see like 24-year-old free agents out there, so makes sense for the Jets to hold on to him. Might also tell us something about where this running back market is going. Adam, the Jets' bigger problem is who's going to hand the ball off to Breece Hall. What is their plan at quarterback?
I think right now they're going to go into free agency and see who they can come up with. There are a whole lot of options out there right now, Dan, and I think that until they figure out what they're doing there, then they might not have clarity on Justin Fields, who remains on the roster. Everything is sort of up in the air right now with all the quarterbacks who are out there. You have Kyler Murray added to the mix today. Malik Willis is going to be a free agent. We have Tua Tagovailoa, who's expected to join that pool. Again, we'll see how the Jets decide to handle it, what approach they take. But I think right now it's wide open, and this still could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the most important position in football, and it's something that the Jets have not been able to figure out. Look, you got to figure out the defense, but if you're going quarterback-wise, like I'm a Mizzou guy. Brady Cook went to the University of Missouri. I don't think he's the answer. I think you got to have a guy under Frank Reich like a Kirk Cousins or somebody of that nature to come in and actually play football at a extremely high level. You look at Marcus Mariota. He's out there as well, too. Both of these guys know that they're going to be bridge quarterbacks because you have 3 first-round picks next year. I would not go out. I would not draft a guy in the first round. I would not do any of that based on the class. And I know we talk about this class is supposed to be really good. Next year's class, Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, Dante Moore, I think they got to have that in their future. But I would say, hey, sign a veteran like Kirk Cousins or Marcus Mariota to come in and compete and sort of right the ship.
Funny you mentioned the draft because we do have one of our outstanding draft analysts, Jordan Reed, joining us now on NFL Live. Jordan, you just did a 2-round post-combine mock draft. Jets have 2 picks in the first round. They got 2 picks in the second round. Which way do you see them going?
I think you guys hit the nail on the head. They shouldn't be in a rush to draft a quarterback this year. 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. They need building blocks on the roster. And honestly, I don't think they're far away offensively outside of quarterback. I like the areas that they have addressed in years past, getting the 2 offensive tackles in Olufashion and also Armand Membu. But this year, it's time to address the defense. And I have them starting off with Arvell Reese, who I think is one of the best defensive players in this year's class. Linebacker, edge rusher, it doesn't matter. You need those building block type of players on Aaron Glenn's defense. You need somebody that can disrupt as well. He's able to do that. Figure out what position he's going to play. It doesn't really matter. You need these blue chip types of players on the defense. Arvell Reese definitely brings that right away from day one.
Jets with a lot of picks and a lot of decisions to make here over the next couple of months. We have a lot more to do on NFL Live. When we come back, we're going to get back to the breaking news that the Arizona Cardinals are planning to release quarterback Kyler Murray at the start of the league year next week. Kyler just put out a statement, and we will bring it to you next. Stay tuned. You're watching NFL Live. To start our show out of Arizona, Adam, get everybody caught up.
Well, the Arizona Cardinals informed Kyler Murray today that when the new league year begins next week, that they intend to release him if they cannot find a trade partner. That trade partner is not expected to materialize. They had conversations at the Combine. There was not a lot of interest then. Kyler Murray is due $36.8 million in guaranteed money for the upcoming year. And that means that with that guaranteed money coming in, Arizona will play him this week or this year, and Kyler Murray can choose where he'd like to go and play at the number that he'd like to play at. So if he prefers to go to a team where he could back up a quarterback and be in a strong organization, that's his choice. If he wants to be a starter and make more money, he can do that. But Kyler Murray now is in the driver's seat. He is expected to have his freedom as of next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, when he will become a free agent and be allowed to strike a deal with another team, and he becomes the newest free agent quarterback available here, Dan.
Of course, if he's still on the Arizona roster late next week, it would have had guaranteed money in 2027, so this move avoids that. Kyler Murray posted a goodbye to Arizona on X moments ago. He tweeted, quote, "To everyone that supported me and showed kindness to my family and I during my time in Arizona, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I wanted nothing more than to be the one to end the 77-year drought for this organization. I am sorry I failed us. I wish this community and my brothers nothing but the best. I am no stranger to adversity. I am prepared for whatever's next. I trust in God and my work ethic. I truly believe my best ball is in front of me, and I look forward to proving it. Godspeed." So Kyler out in Arizona, and how about this? Jordan Reed has the Cardinals trading back up into the first round to take a quarterback at 28 overall in his latest mock draft. That quarterback is Ty Simpson of Alabama. So, Jordan, take us through your thought process there on the Cardinals landing Ty Simpson.
Well, one of the worst kept secrets at the Combine was Kyler Murray not being on the roster next year for the Arizona Cardinals. So my thinking behind that was, this is a clear landing spot for a young quarterback. And then also, how about them catapulting over the Rams, who I think is another team that could be in the market for a young quarterback that's in the division as well. You look at the landing spot for him with Mike LaFleur that has a lot of Sean McVay type of principles. I think Ty fits really well in that type of offense just because he's really good with playing on time. He does really well with exhausting progressions, getting to that third, fourth, fifth option, all the way back to the backside dig and the check down, which is some of the things that he's going to have to do in the LaFleur's offense. They also have Jacoby Brissett already there under contract. We'll see if he's going to be there this upcoming season. But you have to remember, Ty only has 15 career starts, which is very dangerous territory when we're talking about taking a quarterback in the first round. So he's not going to be ready initially. So you have to have that placeholder in place. But as far as the schematic fit, I really like it with LaFleur's offense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when you said jump up above the Rams, I agree with you because I really like his fit with the Rams in Sean McVay. If not, then why not go to Arizona and Mike LaFleur? And you look at this offense, right? It is all timing-based offense. Put Ty Simpson under center, put him in the shotgun, run some RPOs, very intermediate and short routes are thrown. A lot of motions, a lot of personnel groupings to try and trick the defense. And you hit the nail on the head, Jordan. I think that he does need to actually sit for a little bit. That's why I like the Rams for him. So if he does end up getting to the Arizona Cardinals, I like the fact that Jacoby Brissett may be playing and starting, similar to sort of like a Drake May type thing, which he's had that happen before. I just think that Ty Simpson definitely needs a little bit of help getting ready to make that next jump to the NFL.
And Jacoby Brissett is just the kind of quarterback that you want around to tutor a young quarterback. He's somebody that many teams have gravitated to in the past. They'll continue to gravitate toward him in the future. He's made of the right stuff and the kind of guy you want on your 53-man roster and in your locker room. But the Cardinals still are expected to add to that quarterback room. Everybody knows that Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt LaFleur, who coached Malik Willis, maybe they're interested in Malik Willis. Maybe they want to wait. But they are expected to add another quarterback to that roster with Kyler Murray's departure. We'll see whether they decide to do it through free agency, a trade, the draft. They're going to have some options with the third overall pick in the draft. That's not quarterback range, but maybe they decide to parlay that pick into more picks in the 2027 draft that is so loaded with so many top quarterback prospects. Who knows?
And if they do as Jordan suggested and end up with Ty Simpson, they're getting a guy that started out hot last year, had a rough second half, but maybe in position to turn it around if he lands in the right spot in the NFL. The deadline to put the franchise and transition tag on players passed about a half hour ago, so Adam Schefter, get everybody caught up with what happened, starting with the Jets and Breece Hall.
Yeah, we're going to start with Breece Hall, Dan, and he got the franchise tag today. The Jets went back and forth about whether to do the franchise tag, the transition tag, and ultimately they had a sense that there would be some interest in Breece Hall around the league. They didn't want to lose him. They tried to work out a long-term deal. The long-term deal did not materialize, and when it didn't, they placed the franchise tag on him earlier today. He's locked into New York for the upcoming season. On the other hand, the Seattle Seahawks did not tag Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP. The Seahawks would like to extend Jackson Smith-Njigba and cornerback Devin Witherspoon and re-sign other players. There is a Super Bowl tax that is paid by any Super Bowl winner, and it makes it difficult to retain everybody. Now Kenneth Walker allowed to become a free agent. Also allowed to become a free agent, Trey Hendrickson, who bid goodbye to Cincinnati on Instagram just minutes ago with a message thanking the Houday Kingdom for its support over the years. Hendrickson now will become a free agent. He'll hit the market. He'll be one of the top defensive players available next week in the free agent pool, and he will be moving on from Cincinnati. However, right now it looks like it might be difficult for Daniel Jones to move on from Indianapolis. The Colts took the rare step of putting the transition tag on Daniel Jones. Not the franchise, but the transition. $6 million cheaper, and it gives them the ability to match any offer sheet that Daniel Jones might sign with another team. But in using the tag on Daniel Jones, the Colts could not tag wide receiver Alec Pierce, who's now allowed to become a free agent. And he is expected to be one of the more in-demand players in the free agent market next week. A lot of teams need wide receivers. You could see New England and Buffalo both being interested. However, Indianapolis is determined to try to keep Alec Pierce. They've been actively negotiating with him. We'll see if they can figure out a solution to keep him in Indianapolis, but they feel like the tag with Daniel Jones is a placeholder while they discuss a long-term deal, and they'd like to get Alec Pierce done as well. So two players who remain a top target for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, Alec Pierce led the league in yards per reception each of the last 2 years. Will be very interesting to see if he gets to the open market, how many teams pursue him. Chase, what do you think of this decision by the Colts to prioritize the quarterback and potentially risk Alec Pierce hitting free agency?
Well, look, I played quarterback, and you guys know the most important position in football is the quarterback, so I do like it. I think that they could probably get a deal done with Alec Pierce, but when you are prioritizing Daniel Jones, that says a lot about how Shane Steichen feels about him. I love the fit for Daniel Jones in Shane Steichen's offense. And look, The first 7 or 8 games, Daniel Jones could not miss. He was the story. I know they lost 3 straight, but Daniel Jones was always worth an extension. I like the fact that it's a transition one, because now the player can go out and try to figure out what the market is, so the team, the Colts, don't have to overpay if you do put a franchise tag on them. Hey, Daniel, go out and see. The one team, though, guys, I would be extremely scared of is the Minnesota Vikings, who need a quarterback desperately. That's going to be interesting to actually figure out what happens there.
And, Jace, I think that's the one team that would be on the Colts' mind. The issue is, though, the Vikings are cap-strapped right now. They've got a lot of financial issues. They're obviously looking right now to deal Jonathan Grenard, their Pro Bowl pass rusher. Not easy to fit a contract like Daniel Jones into your salary cap. However, it's the quarterback position, and you do what you have to make that position work. But that was part of the Colts' thinking today in putting the transition tag on him. They retain the ability to match any offer sheet that he signs with any other team, whether that's Minnesota or not. And the NFL has banned the use of poison pills. So if Minnesota or any other team wanted to try to get creative to come up with some clause that would prevent that team from getting Daniel Jones back to the Colts, that's not allowed anymore. And so it's set up for Indianapolis to still be in a position to keep Daniel Jones in Indianapolis.
Jordan, I want to go back to Alec Pierce for a second. Colts don't have a first-round pick, result of the Sauce Gardner trade, but your latest mock draft was 2 rounds. Do you have a receiver that would work for them if they wait till the second round to do it?
Yeah, I definitely think the great thing for the Colts this year and what their line of thinking is they actually have a set price. Maybe it's 25 to 28 million, but if it goes anything over that, I think they may get a bit priced out for that. But the great thing for them is this is a great draft for those big boundary X receivers that can get vertical down the field. I'm thinking of a Chris Brazile out of Tennessee. He's one name that definitely comes to mind. Ted Hurst out of Georgia State is another name that comes to mind. But also Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame. I definitely think he slots well into this offense as well. So I definitely think the Colts have a set price that they're willing to go to. But also Chris Ballard's line of thinking could be that this is a great draft to replace Alec Pierce, especially if they want to get that big X vertical receiver that can play on the boundary and get vertical.
All right, when we come back on NFL Live, we're going to continue to dig into Jordan Reed's latest mock as he has the Raiders taking Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Jordan, let's start there. You came out of the combine convinced this was the pick?
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense just because they need a quarterback in Las Vegas right now. But also Fernando Mendoza, I think he is the best in this year's class. Resiliency is one word I would use to describe him, just because think of all the big-time moments that he was able to overcome in this year's season. The big moment going into Oregon, the big hit against Ohio State, and then also the big hits that he took in the national title game against Miami. Those are the big moments that he was able to overcome, Chase.
Yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer for me whatsoever. We know Fernando Mendoza is going #1 overall. I believe him and Clint Kubiak will be an excellent team. Get him under center. He was 98% in the shotgun at college. That's something you have to watch, but the fit between Kubiak and Mendoza makes a lot of sense, a lot of shifts, a lot of motions. Mendoza's easily the smartest quarterback out there in this class. I like that pick.
All right, after Mendoza at 1, Jordan's got defensive players going with each of the next 4 picks. You got Arvell Reese going to the Jets at 2. Tell us what you were thinking with the Cardinals at 3.
Yeah, guys, we're going to see a lot of defensive players come off of the board very quickly. And I have Texas Tech defensive end David Bailey going at #3 overall to Arizona. They need that defensive building block opposite of Josh Sweat. I think both of them fit really well together in that 3-4 scheme that they employ out there. So I really like what he adds to that defense. I think it would be a great pairing just because of the explosiveness that he brings to the table. 14.5 sacks. He was one of the most disruptive defensive players in the entire country this past season. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans, I go with Ruben Bain, the defensive end out of Miami. A pillar piece that Mario Cristobal just talks about emphatically during his time there. Yes, I know the arms came in at sub 31 inches, but I don't care. Everybody knew that he already had short arms, and he still was able to go out and be one of the most productive defensive players in the entire country. Everybody knew that he was one of the best players on the defense, and he still went out and proved that in the national title. Also, moving on, we go with Sonny Styles to the New York Giants, somebody whose stock has absolutely skyrocketed throughout the season. 6'5", 244 pounds. If you think about it, John Harbaugh loves somebody in the middle of that defense, going back to his days with the Ravens. The Giants don't really have that right now. So inputting Sonny Styles right in the middle of that defense, I think this is a fantastic pairing. They need somebody long and rangy like that right in the middle, Chase.
Jordan, I love the pick. I love the combine they have, but what about the offense? We need help offensively. The offensive line was the 8th worst in terms of pressure percentage last year, and the Giants receivers only caught 9 touchdowns. Get somebody else outside of Malik Neighbors, maybe a Lemon, a Tyson, a Carnell Tate, one of those guys. Look, I get it. You're building defense, but your weakness on your team is offensively. You have to score points in the NFC East, and you have to go get a playmaker for Jackson Dart, in my opinion.
Speaking of offense and playmakers, Jordan has the Saints taking Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love at number 8. Love compared himself to someone the Saints know well last week. Take a listen.
I would say my best comparison would be Alvin Kamara. I would say him. He's the most complete back that I've seen. Can do a little bit of everything. Can make plays when you need him to. So definitely him.
Well, it's a lot coming together. Laura's wearing Saints colors in that interview. Jordan, what do you think about Love and the Saints? Why do you like that fit?
It's all about surrounding Tyler Shuck with adequate weapons. And you have to remember, Alvin Kamara, the name that he mentioned, is going to be 31 years old, and he's entering the final season of his deal. So why not go ahead and get the heir apparent behind him? Jeremiah Love adds so many things to the running game, but an underrated part about his game is what he adds in the passing game. He brings that Jahmyr Gibbs type of fear factor to the table where you can play him in the slot, you can line him up out wide, you can line him up in the backfield too. That's why I love the fit.
You're telling me the best overall player from top to bottom in the entire draft will be there at 9 for the Saints? Sign me up. Look, I was there in 2017 when the Saints drafted Alvin Kamara. I saw firsthand his development. I think that this guy right here, Jeremiah Love, he can be better. He has a ceiling of that. He's a 3-down back. He's explosive. He's exactly what Tyler Shuck and the Saints need to make that next jump offensively. I like that pick a lot.
That was the pick at 8 for the Saints. At number 9, Jordan makes Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs fans everywhere happy by giving the Chiefs a receiver. Jordan, take us through your thought process there.
Well, the Chiefs desperately need somebody that can defeat man coverage. And there was nobody better in the country last season than Carnell Tate. I really like Carnell Tate in this Kansas City offensive scheme just because of the explosive factor, especially the down the field factor that has been missing from the Chiefs offense, especially since Tyreek Hill has been gone. Honestly, they haven't had that down the field weapon that they can consistently go to. Carnell Tate, in my opinion, he's not as productive as this guy coming out, but the player that he reminds me of is Devontae Smith when he was coming out of Alabama. That long, slinky build that can really take advantage of defenses down the field.
Put him opposite of Rashee Rice. I like it. I was with Andy Reid for 3 years. He loves to get his playmakers in space. I agree with you totally. Find a way to defeat man coverage because teams this past year, they're coming up and saying, we're going to play press man-to-man. You don't have anyone that can beat man-to-man coverage. You get all those guys, plus maybe a Travis Kelce back, plus maybe somebody else at a running back in the free agent market. The Chiefs are retooled offensively, and you still have the best player in the world at quarterback in Patrick Mahomes.
You know, Chase, a guy who might fit for the Chiefs at running back is the untagged Kenneth Walker, who could be headed to free agency next week. And when we come back, we will dive back into Jordan's mock, see if we can find his replacement. Jordan thinks this guy can be even better than Walker was in Seattle. Stick around to find out who it is.